getting set up here and seeing if we can stream it Cassie's phone so that we can watch the comments a little easier. If there are any.
Trying to figure tech out. Oh, here we go. So can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are just going to be working through a tutorial on layering from YouTube from, I love her channel, but I don't know how to say her name. I think it's Macochino.
Macchiato?
Or Macochino. But she's got so many good tutorials, just a ton of followers. And this one is called Make Your Watercolor Painting Look Matte with these 3 easy easy watercolor techniques and ideas. So we're going to start that here. All right.
You can use in your watercolor painting to make your artwork more interesting. We're going to start off with the first technique to create depth in a forest scenery. Start off by applying a little bit of water to your watercolor paper and then distribute it evenly, but make sure you don't use too much water. Since I wanted to create a summer scenery in a forest,
So it's going to be like a forest look.
Watercolor and mix it with a little bit of cool yellow to make the green slightly more vibrant, but you can use any color you like, of course. I also mixed it with a lot of water to make the color lighter, and then I applied it all around the edges of the square while keeping the center very.
So I'm just going to use mountain green on this one.
Is this one using all one color? Or is this...
I think so.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to use myrtle green.
Whoop.
Vibrant water.
I might have put too much water on here.
Very light. If you have too much paint on your brush, just rinse it off and blend out the rest of the color with a damp brush. From here you can start building up the intensity the same way. It's just important to start with a very light layer and then add more and more color.
I don't know if I need to build up any more intensity.
To add depth later if it's too dark in the early stages. Now, if you notice that you get pools of color because you used way too much paint or water, like in my case, if the paper starts paper or a dry brush to soak it up. While the paint is still wet, add a little bit of yellow watercolor to the center, follow the sun in the background, and then blend it into the light green color. Here it's important to work rather quickly and to make sure that you don't use too much water, or otherwise the wet paint will run into the dry areas and create these backgrounds that look like cauliflowers. But if that still happens, don't worry, just blend it completely.
Mine's not super subtle.
Alright, this is how it looks so far. While this is drying, I'm going to show you how you can use the same technique, but for an underwater scenery. Load up your brush with a food color of your
second. I still have to add my yellow. Let's see if mine's any.
Yours looks better than that. Or more like hers than mine does right now, but
let's see. That's with like a lot of your paintings, is that like you go for like full on color and mine are always more subtle. So maybe that's just a theme you've got going on.
brush is like shedding.
I've got a bunch of other ones here.
You can switch out for the big one.
I like these kind of tutorials because they have you working on multiple paintings at once, so it's like you don't have to be as patient because you're already working on something else. Woo. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. You want to hit the space bar.
Your choice, and then distribute the paint all around the paper. So once you create the blue frame, blend out the color into the center with a clean wet brush to make the color lighter and lighter towards
This
the
one
center.
we are going
If you use too much paint and the center is too dark,
blue.
just use a tissue paper
It's like
again and
kinda
soak up
same
some of
thing,
the
it looks
paint,
like.
and then you can blend out the rest with a clean damp brush.
Wait,
Now
did
the
she
third
put
one
water
is
down
here to
first?
the-
Oh, I don't know. I did not.
Try that.
I'm kind of adding water as I go with my water brush.
What blue did you pick out?
I think it's Alice blue. Yep, Alice blue.
I use cobalt.
Can I press?
Mm-hmm.
I think this
First,
is
using
she's like
that
adding
scenery is
swirls.
underwater. So instead of using another color in the center, you want to burn the blue paint again, and then you want to start building up the colors starting from the edges. So apply the paint to the corners and then lightly blend it towards the center in a circular motion. And with the rest of the paint on your brush, create a few lines that kind of create a spiral towards the center. You want to keep the outer edges dark, and the more and more you move to the center, the lighter the color should become. This way you create this depth and also the light reflections that you get underwater. Again, it's important you work rather quickly so the moisture on the paper is even and you don't get any patches later. Now for the third painting, we're going to create a very simple mountain scenery using the layering technique that we're going to use in the other paintings as well. So here you only need one color of your choice, and then mix it with a ton of water so the color is very, very light. And then pick up the paint with your brush, and then start
I don't think I
outlining
want
the
to do
shape
pink.
of the
Did you
mountains
pink
right
for this one?
Did I? No, I'm gonna just use one of the blues I already have.
Oh, I'm gonna get a different color. What should I do? Got my whole stack here. I'll try Jane's gray.
Quaint little mountainscape.
This is the really light layer. Just maybe I better mix it on my palette. There we go. Hunting.
This big honker of a brush.
This one's layered, so I can kind of fudge it later. You can go ahead and I'll catch up.
Create the edge of the paper. Once you create the outline, you want to blend out this line without using any additional paint towards the bottom of the paper and then let it dry. So you get a very light color on top that becomes almost invisible towards the bottom. These are going to be mountains that are far, far away. In the fourth painting, we're going to combine both techniques. We're going to create the sunset in the background and later mountains, trees that we want. Now here I used yellow and red to create this orangey sunset, but you can use any color you like.
That's where the
You
pink
just want to make
came
the center light and the outside darker. Also, instead of creating a full circle like in the first painting, you want to do the same as with the mountains and blend out the rest of the paint starting from the center towards the bottom. So we only see the
Interesting.
in. It's going bold for this one.
I'm gonna steal some of your power.
It's just underwater. I don't know if anyone can hear our dog whining in the background. It's pretty pitiful. She's not getting her 24/7 attention right now. Yeah, Missy, we are following a tutorial by, we think her name is Macachino or Makachino. It's Makoccino. It's called Make Your Watercolor Painting Look Magical with These Easy Watercolor Techniques and Ideas. So we're doing 4 different little techniques in different quadrants. We kind of got like all the backgrounds now.
the sun on the upper part of the painting. Now the most important part in all of those techniques is patience. So make sure the paper is completely dry when you add another layer. You can use a hair dryer for that. I do that all the time. And then we can
Same
start
color
building
in
up
the
our
top
little
left.
painting. Now
And
to
she's
create
just
depth
kind of
in the
doing
first
like
painting, fill up your brush with the same color you used for
some
the
amorphous
background. In this
blobs.
case, I used my lime green type of color, but make it slightly darker, just a little bit. And then paint a tree silhouette on top. So here I outline some shapes. Some are taller, some are wider, but make sure you keep the center relatively free so the sun doesn't get lost. Just add a few trees below it and the ocean scenery, we're going to do the same, but we're going to create a light
Wait.
reflections.
Okay. So we're adding some trees. Or ideas of trees.
At least the first layer.
My water's running out. My brush.
First thing?
Good.
Uh-huh.
Instead. So here I used the same color again, just slightly darker, and then I started painting triangles with the wider part at the edges that become smaller and lighter towards the center. You can create them in any size. I
Okay. So this one we're doing like little light. What should call sections?
Yeah. Like you're looking up from the ocean floor.
That's cool. More water. I'm ready.
some
To
wider,
keep
some were
going.
just thin lines. Just making sure I create this type of a star or sun ray shape with the paint becoming almost invisible towards the center. Since I also wanted to make the ocean look a little bit deeper, I added the same blue color just a little bit darker to the edges and blended it to the grass. Alright, let's move on to the third
Vignette.
painting. Well,
Give it a little more depth.
Just like paired with the music you have going is like super relaxing. Okay.
You can hit the spacebar.
this is drying. Now here you also want to use a darker version of the previous color and then repeat the steps. Outline the shapes of the mountains but slightly below the first row and then blend out the line towards the bottom. The lighter the color is right below the mountain, the more of a misty effect you create. So you don't want to just paint over the whole paper like we just did with the trees in the first thing. We really want to make sure the top part of the mountain is just a dark line, we then blend out to make the paint almost invisible below. Do the same in the fourth painting and let everything completely dry. Now from here we can finally start finishing up the paintings. If you have seen my video,
Definitely need a little more practice on making the paint almost invisible by the time it reaches the bottom.
Which one do you think is going to be your favorite at the end?
I think this forest one. Did she just do the mountains this way? Or I mean the fourth one, yeah.
The fourth one? I think the fourth one is just like a blend of all the different.
But she put mountains in there.
Then we must put mountains in there. I think that would look cool. So I've got jeans gray for my mountains. And it makes a really nice purple with the, I think the
Oh, it's
background
super cool.
is arbutus and flaxen hair.
Reminds me of like an Easter egg.
Yeah. Okay, I can go further.
I like how even your mountains are.
Like I cut them out of with those like scrapbooking scissors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, make a nice big peak there. Ooh, I love that. How's that for a little very at the end? Oh, you can't even see it on the
Video
camera.
about how to paint with just one color, you might know how this works. So basically, the more rows you add to your painting, the darker and darker the color becomes when you move it.
So we're just adding more trees.
I don't think mine was completely dry yet, but just means we get more kind of hedges and less kind of trees. This brush can just hold so much paint, so much liquid.
That's like your favorite type of brush, right?
Yeah, but mostly just because I think they look pretty cool. I don't think I'm a good enough painter yet to really like have a preference on brushes, but
I mean, you have a preference, so you must be a good enough painter. Yeah, our dogs are taking advantage of that they know that we're in here on camera so they know their little mischievous behaviors won't be reprimanded. Okay.
Closer to the viewer. Load up your brush with the same color again. Just use more paint than water to make it look darker.
Oh, so we have to
and then
wait for
apply
this one to
another
dry.
layer.
Yeah.
Now here you can experiment again with different shapes, heights, and how you place everything into your painting. You can keep the center rather free, or if you want, you can also, of course, place trees right in the center to make everything look more mysterious, like you really want to know
I
what's
feel
there
like
behind the trees. Where does the path lead
there's no
you?
way this is dry
Just
enough.
make sure to let
Yeah.
layers dry completely because otherwise you get characters or
Right on cue.
the
Just
lines
let the
will look
layers
flat,
completely
so
before you
usually
move
I
on.
use the hairdryer. I use the hairdryer all the time during my practice. Honestly, I don't want to wait ages for everything to dry, so it's safe. Since this technique is all about layering, it's not only important to make sure the paint underneath is
Okay, so
completely
we'll come
dry,
back to that
but
one.
also that your watercolors are transparent because if it's opaque or there's a ton of fillers and it looks rather chalky, you might not get the same result because as you see, the layers are built on
The
each
fish.
other and depend on each other.
Okay, so top right.
We're gonna add fish to our seascape. I'm gonna go directly off of my color sheet for this one.
I think I will too. Get a deeper color. Just gonna test my fish.
I'm just thinking cheesy goldfish.
It's kind of the only fish I know how to do too. I don't know, are there other shaped fish?
Turtles.
I mean, of course, there's other shaped fish, but
I don't know.
like they're just all goldfish. Okay. Down.
For the ocean scenery, you can add people swimming around the light spot or add dolphins, fish, or anything else you like. To emphasize how deep the water is, I made some fish very tiny around the center and then added some bigger fish dolphins around the edges that swim towards the light. I did something similar in a super old video about watercolors for beginners, but there I used a different technique and I think you can use both even in one
Your
painting.
fish look way better.
In the third painting, I just kept adding more rows of mountains, making them dark and darker. And for the fourth painting, I just combined everything and played.
Or I just forget I did this one in the palette.
you're like, it's like tie-dye.
Bloom.
Play around with different colors. I added blues,
Just doing
reds, and
more
greens to just experiment.
ornaments.
I was just so fascinated by building up the layers and how colors looked underneath another color, so it was really fun. I think all these examples are a great exercise to get familiar with the layering and the glazing technique because you don't have to create a super detailed or advanced type of painting. You can just physically create random shapes and layer them on top of each other, and bam, you get something really cool.
Thank you, Macochino. I think the big takeaway from this is that we need a hair dryer. Like these really need to dry between layers. Of course, she makes hers look like amazing finished studio pieces of art. But I think if we go through this tutorial a few more times and just practice some more things like this, it should hopefully look better and better. But my arch nemesis for this whole thing was just lack of patience.
I think you did a good job.
Oh, thank you. Does anyone have any questions before we sign off here?
I feel like I could keep going on this one. I like this last one
At the Cotton Candy Mountains.
a lot. Yeah. I'm gonna add some trees to it when we're done.
All right, everyone. This is awesome. And I hope you have a good night. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming along with us as we learn how to paint.